Hi everyone, happy Friday. I hope your day is going well. I hope you're being respectful to the sub and that this video lesson goes well for you. Please know that your sub is there to help you. She is super smart when it comes to trigonometry, and so she's there and willing to help you. So make sure you use her as a resource. At this point, I'm sitting at the Target Center and I've watched the Trojets dance their jazz routine in prelims. We will dance finals tonight. Those are the top 6 teams. I'm assuming we'll be dancing finals. And then from there, the top 3 teams get a medal. So I hope I have some hardware to show off on Tuesday. So anyways, let's get started. Today, by the end of this lesson, you will be able to use inverse trigonometric functions to find missing angles. And don't let the word inverse stress you out at all. It's basically you're relying on your calculator. So we just need to find the correct ratios that we're typing into our calculator, and from there, let your calculator do the work. By now we are familiar with our 3 functions, the sine function, the cosine function, and the tangent function. As we go into finding the inverse, it's like square rooting a squared number or dividing a number that has been multiplied. So we're finding basically the opposite operation. We are inverting what we have already done. So the inverse of sine looks like this. And the inverse of cosine looks like this. And the inverse of tangent looks like this. And notice they all have a -1 as their exponent. That's just their symbol for showing that you have done the inverse of that function. This is a button on our calculator. So on your graphing calculator, if you click the second button and then click the function button, it will give you the inverse of that function. So for the inverse of sine, I would press the second button, the sine button, and then on my calculator screen will pop this. So from there, it'll actually have parentheses, and I'll be plugging in my ratios from there. If you are using my script calculator and you simply write it out like this, it will recognize that, and so as long as you're on the degree mode, your calculator will do the trick for you. Before I give you your examples, I've already written out SOHCAHTOA, so that mnemonic is there to help me remember my ratios. For sine, it's my opposite over my hypotenuse. For cosine, it's my adjacent side over my hypotenuse. And for tangent, it's my opposite side over my adjacent side. And also before our example, make sure you have turned your calculator the mode, make sure you have turned the mode to your degree mode. From radian, change it to degree mode if it hasn't already been changed. In this right triangle below, what we are going to be finding is the value of theta. We are going to be finding the value of that angle right there. So what we need are 2 triangle side length values. Ta-da! We have the opposite side as 7 and the adjacent side as 5. So if I'm using the opposite and the adjacent, I have the ratio for the function of tangent. So what I'm going to be finding is the tangent of theta, which is the ratio of opposite 7, adjacent 5. And because I don't know what that theta is, this is where my inverse function comes in. Pause this if you need to so that you are typing in your calculator as you're watching this. But what I need to do is press my second tangent button and up will pop the inverse of tangent. Inside those parentheses, I'm going to write my ratio of 7 over 5. So 7 divided by 5, close it up. And when I press enter, I get the following value of 54.5 degrees. So the value of theta right here is 54.5 degrees. Here's my second example. I have theta again. I'm trying to find the angle measure of theta, and I'm given the adjacent side and I'm given the hypotenuse. Adjacent and hypotenuse. So I must be using the cosine function. So I want to find the cosine of theta. And the cosine of theta is adjacent over hypotenuse. I always have to write this out to help me organize. So 7 over 15. So the cosine of theta is equivalent to the ratio value of 7 over 15. So in my calculator, what I would type in is second cosine, which gives me the inverse of cosine. In parentheses, I would write 7 divided by 15. And the value of this is 62 and 2/10 of a degree. So theta right here is the angle measure of 62 and 2/10 of a degree. Now, if you are ready to move on to see some homework examples, go ahead and fast forward. If you would like to do one more example with me, stay tuned. Here's an example where I have a triangle with 3 sides. All 3 side values are given to me. So I can choose of any of the functions to find the value of theta. Because we have not done a sine function example yet, I thought I would use this as an opportunity just to demonstrate inverse of sine. So sine is the opposite over the hypotenuse. From theta, the opposite side value is 14. So the ratio would be 14 over. The hypotenuse, as always, is 50. Doesn't change which angle you're looking at. So the ratio of sine is 14 over 50. So the sine of theta would be the ratio 14 out of 50. So what angle measure gives us the ratio 14 out of 50? That's where my calculator comes back in. So again, I press the second button, I press the sine button, and up pops the inverse sine on my calculator screen. In the parentheses, I write 14 divided by 50, close it up, and I get 16 degrees. Now that's when I rounded it to the nearest whole number. And in your homework today, it's going to ask you to round to the nearest degree, so to the nearest whole number. So 16 degrees is the value of theta. Again, I could have used any of the 3 functions, but I just chose to use sine just to model that for you. But again, since I have the 3 side values of the triangle all given to me, I'm given the adjacent, I'm given the opposite, and I'm given the hypotenuse, so I could have used any of the 3 functions. And in fact, if I wanted to double check my answer, I could go through and do this for cosine or for tangent to make sure that I got 16 degrees as well. Another way, without the drawing of a triangle, to represent finding the angle measure would be something like this. So the sine of A, the sine of angle A, gives us the ratio as a decimal as 0.5150. So now, converting that into what we have seen so far, what it's asking me is the inverse of this angle A is the ratio that gives us the decimal of 0.5150. So in my calculator, I would type in second sine. In parentheses, I would write this ratio as a decimal. I don't know what the ratio is, but whatever that ratio was is equivalent to the value, that decimal value. So when I press this into my calculator, I end up with 31 degrees. So the sine of 31 degrees equals the ratio as a decimal 0.5150. Another example would look like this. If I'm trying to find the value of angle W and I'm given the sides that use the ratio for tangent opposite over adjacent, that ratio opposite over adjacent would have given me this decimal value. So I am given some information in this. I'm just not seeing it as a triangle. So I want to figure out what angle measure gives me a ratio for tangent of 0.5317. So in my calculator, I'm going to write second tangent button. So it looks like that, the inverse of tangent of this ratio, which is the decimal 0.5317. And the angle measure for W is 28 degrees. Now, it will give you a longer decimal, 28 point, yada, 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 but you are asked in your homework to round to the nearest degree, so that's why I wanted to demonstrate it like that for you. Now it's time for your homework. Yay! Miss Brua is going to give you your homework. It is another yellow worksheet, so I apologize that they're all yellow. That would be kind of tricky to keep them in order. So maybe at the top you want to write Friday, or you want to write day 3 on the top. The title of this worksheet is called Inverse Trigonometric Ratios. So it's another yellow worksheet, and at the top it says Inverse Trig Ratios. This is due on Tuesday, and you have a mini quiz on Tuesday. Remember what I told you earlier in the week, that I'm going to be collecting all 3 of your homework assignments, and I'm going to be collecting those on Tuesday. So don't turn anything in today. I will collect all of them on Tuesday. So you're using those 3 homework assignments as extra practice for your quiz. You can create your own examples using that as a guide. Remember, there's also lots of videos on YouTube regarding trigonometry, or I have posted some links on my Moodle page as well. So there's plenty of resources for you. What you'll have to be able to do on your quiz on Tuesday is everything I've asked you to do in the last 3 days. So find the ratio of the sides. So just setting up SOHCAHTOA, finding the ratio of the sides. You'll be having to find the missing sides, what we did yesterday, and then this, finding the missing angles using inverse trig. And to sign off, here's the joke of the day. Now, I know you've all been waiting for a trigonometry joke, so here it is. Why didn't the mathematician put his foot in the tub while he was taking a bath? Because he didn't want to soak his toe. SOHCAHTOA? Ha ha ha. I put she too because the mathematician could have been a woman too, right? Right? Anyways, hope you have a glorious weekend. Good luck completing your homework. Please feel free to email me if you have any questions. We will have a mini quiz on Tuesday, and I will be collecting the homework from the last 3 days during our mini trigonometry investigation. Enjoy your weekend. See you on Tuesday. Bye. Oh yeah, the answer key to this is on Moodle. If you were looking, the answer key to your homework is on Moodle, so you can check it over the weekend. All right, for real. See you later. Bye.
Made with Doodlecast Pro.